Hello, welcome back again to the Diary of the Coffee Hunters YouTube channel. And on this channel, I invite you to join me on my coffee hunting expeditions and adventures around the world of coffee. The particular focus of this channel is the relationship between the consumer end of the value chain and the producer end of the coffee value chain, which are the farmers. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to this channel, like the content that we are producing, and share with your wider network. In my last video, I shared my encounter with some wildfires in one of Zimbabwe's coffee producing regions of Veld Valley. And I got a message from one of the viewers saying that I contradicted myself in that I mentioned that climate change was causing these wildfires. But in the same video, I then say that particular fire was caused by somebody who was clearing their own field to prepare for the next season or the coming season.
The farmers are now battling a fire that has been started by somebody who wanted to clear a small piece of land.
Yes, indeed, I did say that climate change was resulting in these veld fires or these wildfires within the coffee growing region. What I was talking about is not a causal relationship, but what I was talking about was the fact that because of the changes in the seasons, that particular area is now experiencing extended periods of dryness that it was not accustomed to previously. So what has always been known about that part of Zimbabwe is that, in fact, Veld Valley sits on the other side of the Nyanga mountain range. And the colonial settlers, when they came in the first time in Zimbabwe, they actually nicknamed Nyanga Little England. And if you have ever been to the Lake District and you've also been to Nyanga, you will immediately recognize quite a striking resemblance between the Lake District and Nyanga. Perhaps the other reason why they would have called it Little England is also because of the weather in that particular area, which is almost always wet, or at least it used to be, almost always wet, raining, drizzle, mist. In the southern hemisphere, you get wet and hot summers. And then you get dry and cold winters. But in the region where coffee is produced in the Eastern Highlands, particularly the northern part, which is Veld Valley and the Nyanga area, what you have is, even in the winter months where the rest of the country is dry, but what you get in that particular area is that there is always some drizzle. It's always misty, there's always some drizzle coming down. So perennially, that region has always been known to have some degree of moisture in the atmosphere and on the ground. Because of so much rain throughout the year, you also have these swamps that would have been developing in between places, or wet areas, wet patches that have been developing in between different places, homesteads, and you name it. What has now happened due to climate change? You are in a situation where you get the last rains probably around March or April, and then you go through all the autumn and winter months into the spring ahead of the new summer season. It will be dry and you will not get a drop of rain. And worse still, the rains are coming much later than they used to. You could actually go into mid-November before the first rains actually come. Whereas previously, the hottest month in that region is October. But for that particular area of Veld Valley, you would get some kind of rain around mid-October. They actually tell me that they are used to getting rain without fail on the 20th of October. But what is happening now is you could go up to the second week of November without any rain, or even when the rain comes in November, it is not as significant as it used to be. So what then happens is, because of these extended periods of dryness, everything is crisp dry. the grass, all the leaves that would have fallen off, everything, all those patches of wet swamps would have dried up. So the region in general is very dry. So what would have been exercise that is normal to people to do, for example, you want to clear the season, you gather a few twigs and you name it, and you clear the ground and you heap some grass and leaves that you've put up and you burn them. Previously, because of the moisture of the environment, that fire would not spread. It can be managed. But what is happening now is a simple spark, because everywhere is so dry, a simple light that has been set can trigger an uncontrollable Veld fire. And that is exactly what happened on this particular last visit, that a lady innocently light up and then burn off this area. And in most cases, that area that would be burned will probably be maybe an acre or two of land. However, because the whole area is so dry, the fire just spreads so quickly. And because the leaves in the trees are also dry, the fire climbs up the tree. And once the leaves catch fire, they can then be blown by wind in all sorts of directions. And that fire becomes uncontrollable and it begins to threaten coffee fields. So that is what climate change is doing. And you need to understand that the effects of climate change are not just limited to isolated events. It is one of many things that are happening. Zimbabwe was on the path of Cyclone Idai in 2019, and every single year around January, it has received or it has been hit by either a cyclone or a storm of some magnitude every single year coming from the Indian Ocean. So the farmers are having to battle with a lot of things. The dry months, they are fighting fires. And then in the wet months, they are fighting and hoping, literally praying that the storm doesn't come. And when it does, they are hoping that it doesn't destroy their trees, because coincidentally, the time that the storms come is always the time that the coffee trees are flowering. So when the high winds come, they tend to shake off the flowers. And if the flowers have been shaken off, it means each tree is going to carry less cherries to harvest. So really, the farmers are really battling the elements. They are really battling the elements in that they're having to contend with all these climate change-induced calamities. And at the same time, we have a world on the other side, the consumer side, which is just moving on with a little care. They do talk about all these things, sustainability and how the farmers can be more resilient. But really, nobody's paying attention to how the farmers are actually dealing with the consequences of climate change, how they are taking it upon themselves to find ways of becoming a lot more resilient. What is needed is not just the farmers, it needs the governments to be promoting and opening up the space to invest in smart agriculture, for example, engaging the farmers, training them in more resilient methods of farming. There's been a lot of work that has been going on, particularly in Zimbabwe, to support the small-scale coffee farmers. I must add, back in 2018, Nespresso came in and they've been working with farmers using a local NGO to train farmers. So if you go there, farmers have been practicing these water conserving practices that ensure that water doesn't evaporate quickly from the soil, a process called mulching. They have been trying, all sorts of things that to preserve, because water is the most precious element of growing. Coffee needs water, and a lot of water. But that water must be coming in a managed manner rather than coming by way of a storm where you get rain that you are supposed to receive over a spread of a month. It's all falling within a space of 4 hours. So that is the tragedy of climate change that the farmers are having to contend with. So wherever you are, you need to think about these things. You need to think about what climate change is actually doing to the livelihoods of certain people, particularly portion of a value chain that is coffee, where the people that sponsor your latte, your cappuccino, or your morning brew at home, the things that they are going through. I am here and I always promote the cause. I always fight for the cause of the farmer, because I have experienced both sides, really. My relationship with the farmers, having grown up in a rural setting in Zimbabwe, I kind of have a certain appreciation that allows me, once I had the privilege of living in the developed world to see that there is something that is fundamentally wrong that needs to be corrected. So that's why I encourage you to subscribe, like, and share the content that we are creating here. And we also do have merchandise. And if you go on the website, www.changamiri.coffee, you should be able to go to merchandise and get yourself one of these teas. If you're a coffee lover, or even if you're not a coffee lover, you can still get one for yourself or somebody you want to gift or send as a present. So why don't we do this? Let's get cracking. Let's get subscribers on board. I hear that the magic number is 1,000. I need to get to 1,000 over the course of the next few months. I've got a few trips planned. I will be going to Zimbabwe. I will be going to Asia again. I'll be visiting different places or talking to coffee farmers. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching once again. I hope to see you back here soon. I should have something else being uploaded in no time at all. Keep checking back, but above all, subscribe so that you receive a notification as soon as new video is dropped. Thank you and thank you.